Okay, so next question then. Okay. So you've had a lot of military experience. You ran the base on Guam, full bird colonel. Is there a difference between leading a military base and being in the civilian world leading the state? I mean, what would be the main differences there?
Oh, I think there's quite a few differences, but I think the principles are the same. I think the difference is when it comes down to direct accountability and what the whole discipline process, in the military, and I mean, folks are held to very high standards.
You can't throw the house in the brig.
That's right.
Though some of them we should.
That's right.
No offense, Ken.
And of course here there's different legal proceedings to do that, and that's but when it comes down again to leadership, I think and I keep hearing that term, and I'm not Chesty Puller, I'm not George Patton, I'm not one of those guys, but I do know how to lead, and it's kind of like that term gets thrown around so much, and I think the way it's kind of being used is more in a managerial sense, and it is one thing to be able to manage folks and manage certain things. It's a whole other thing to lead them down the path that you're trying to get there to a common objective. And so much of it is based on trust. And I will tell you this, is that there is a requirement, in my as a Marine, to where you do a command climate survey once every 18 months. And I wanted it done once a quarter and these are all anonymous. You never know what the young guys are saying. But the reason is because other than somebody dying, the thing that mattered to me the most was, do my Marines trust me? Do the guys underneath me, do they trust me? And so the Naval Safety Center, and at the time I was the only one doing this, doing it so frequently and put these trust questions in there. And it came down to, do you trust your commander? Do you trust your command staff? And then I modified a few other questions. The reason is because if they trusted me, it didn't matter how nasty the mission was or whatever it was, that they would do it. And I'd be right there with them the whole time. And so to me, and that's I think one thing, and that's why I harp so much on trust, is if there's a way to garner just a little bit, to earn just a little bit of trust from the citizenry, man, our rightful spot is on top.
All right, so let me be a little bit more specific. I was kind of vague with my question, but here's the real question. Yep. So being in the military, you're the boss, right?
Right.
You're running the base. What the colonel says goes.
Right.
That's very different than being in the governor's office, because you've got a House, which right now, you got a majority there. You got a Senate. Well, frankly, they're not going to be on your side right now. How are you going to work with people who have differing ideas about how things should be done? I mean, the governor can say one thing, but the legislature might say something different. How are you going to handle that dynamic?
Well, I think first, the governor is the chief law enforcement officer in the state. And my whole thing is equal application of law across the board, regardless of who's doing that, whether they're a clerk or whatever they are, right? And exercising that accordingly, because the people deserve accountability. Right. Now, with our state government right now, we do have an overpowering executive. I think we have a judiciary that's in somewhat of the same boat. I see the legislature is probably the weakest of the three branches, and whether that's because they're part-time, I don't know, but it's one of those things to kind of look at. But my end state, when I'm done, I want everything rebalanced, and I'm going to use that authority to rebalance it all, and then make sure through the legislature that it never happens again. So what I'm talking about specifically is I want confirmation on our judgeships, and legislative confirmation on our judgeships, because we see, all of us should be appalled at some of these decisions coming out of the Supreme Court, but none of us should be surprised. But I do want legislative confirmation on those. I don't think we're to a point of putting them on the ballot, because people don't even research the gubernatorial candidates. So why, this whole thing with the judgeships? I think a lot of these commissions, whether it's Oil and Gas Commission, a lot of these State Board of Education, whatever it is, I do think that there should be some sort of adjudication process through the legislature on that. But one of the things that needs to happen is the long-term plan for the state. Where are we going? And I've been a planner my whole time. That's strategic planning, operational planning, tactical planning, and tactical planning is that time of execution. Strategic is a long-term outlook, and it's like, okay, this is what we're looking at here in the next 25 years or whatever. And as we get closer to that execution here, naturally there's more fidelity to the plan. And I think just like the people, because ultimately it's consent of the governed, and it comes down to bringing the people in from the get-go. So, and that's one thing I fully intend on doing, is being out there saying, hey, here's the deal. Get those legislators that understand and where we're going, where I want to take the state. Naturally, it's not a unitary thing. I totally get that, and that's why I say that to make these changes permanent, we need the legislature in there, because I don't want to do all this stuff via executive fiat. Not some of it I can't, yeah, a lot of it I can't. So that's why we need the legislators in there who truly understand where we want to take the state, what the end state's going to look like, and guys, this is how we need to do it. This and those first few days, next January, it's like, okay, we're going to identify. We're doing it right now. Those major muscle movements that need to happen legislatively, and then getting the folks on board who understand where we're trying to go here, and make that happen.